You've probably wondered why isometric artwork or other CAD-like artwork often is drawn with round stroke caps. So if you have the stroke, let's make it thicker, then you've got round caps on it. And that, of course, happens in order to control when these lines meet. So if we have a couple of lines meeting, then you see with the round cap, it looks fine no matter what. And if instead this is like this, then you see we've got all kinds of issues with it. So that's why this happens. Another thing that can happen is that you have a line coming from here, and maybe that line is even thicker, and then you have this situation. What can we do about that? This is also something that often happens in CAD settings. So let's take a look at that. Let's make a duplicate of this shape here. Let's assume we've got some line meeting this cube here. And in isometric drawings, you often have just a couple of angles that happen and other angles just don't happen. So we've got some line that is going like this, perhaps meeting these kind of shapes. And then what you can do, let's make this thicker so that we see something. We've got the effect AG Utilities by Astute Graphics, and there's some nice thing in here, and that is the angle cap. So here we can angle these stroke caps. Let's see the start cap, that is this one here. And I'm going to angle that. And you see, we've got this, and down at the end, we can do the same. So there we can do something like this. Now this is relative to the path. We can also make an absolute angle that then refers to the canvas. But let's first do it like this, and then you need to adjust that somehow. And you see, we've got some exact result. Now, as I said, the angles in isometric drawings are just a limited set of angles. So what can we do about that? Now, the thing with this is we can have a line going from here to there, or we can have it going from here to like here. So we have all these different angles at beginning and end, and we could set up graphic styles and for all these combinations, but that would be kind of difficult to handle. So what can we do? And also the line weights are different. How to deal with that? Thankfully, this effect is cumulative, and that's something nice what we can now do. In order to make this into a graphic style, what we could do is just take it and drag it into the graphic style panel. I'm going to undo that. I do not want to do that because then I would have to do quite a lot of them. But we can do is just have a line, and then let's go to the effect again, the angle cap. And of course, when we do this for isometric drawings, then we set them to absolute, like this. So we could set them absolute, and we could have something like 30 and 60, but that is what we don't want. So what we can do is make it for the start point 30° absolute. Here's an extension limit that will cap it off if it gets too long, too extreme, but we just leave it at that. So we have some effect which turns into a graphic style that is set up to the start at 30° absolute. Let's preview that. That will look like this. Okay, so now I could create a graphic style from that, but I won't do it because it would include the color and thickness of the stroke, and I do not want that. So let's go to the appearance panel. This is how it looks. Here we've got the angle cap and we've got the stroke. We can set this stroke to none, and then we have just the angle cap with 0 stroke settings. Let's take this and put it into the graphic styles, and then we could name it, of course. So let's go into the list view, and this is start 30° absolute. If we now have a line in red. Then what we can now do is Alt click this graphic style, and then it gets applied on top of what's already there. So we have this. The nice thing is we can add another one. So I could go to the utilities again, add another angle cap. That's okay. And this time I want just the end cap. I want that at, say, 150 degree absolute. Okay. And you see we've got different angles at both sides. We can turn that into a set of graphic styles, and I have already done that. So here we've got the graphic styles. Let's set this to the list view, and you see here we've got all the angles that typically appear in isometric drawings, and then we can combine. So what can we do? Let's draw one again, and then I could add, then Alt click this one, and then I could add this one, and we've got two different sets for the start point and for the end point. And you see this already gets rather long, and that's what this extension limit would cut that off if it gets too long. I hope this helps you if you have the Astute graphics tools. Definitely check that out if you are into isometric drawings.